Yes, hello. Welcome back to the channel, and I hope everyone is okay. Sadly, two of our comrades and other people have been injured as a result of police brutality, military brutality, and of course Museveni's brutality. But we have to endure and fight on. There's no struggle that has ever been easy. Not even revolutions have never been easy. Taking out a dictator is not something easy. That one you should know, guys. Uh, if you look at history, the French Revolution, the World Wars, the Pol Pots, the Duvaliers, all these people, the way they were taken out, it was not peaceful. Because the truth is, dictators are big-headed. Like, they have big heads. They are arrogant and big-headed. They live in a completely different world. Anyway, that will be a story for another day. Today, I'm here to talk about the story of Ashraf Kasirye Saifullah, the gentleman who was shot yesterday when a bullet was fired by one of the police officers who was meant to assassinate Bobby Wine. That's the reason as why Bobby Wine moves with a vest as well as a helmet. But there are a lot of people down there on the ground that are fighting, the unsung heroes, the people we do not know a lot about. I managed to gather a few things about Kasirye Ashraf Saifullah, the Ghetto TV gentleman who was shot at yesterday. As we speak right now, the last I heard, he was out of the theater and he was pulling through. He only needs your prayers, but still is not in a very, very stable condition. We won't be seeing him soon on the campaign trail, but hopefully we pray. Anyway, Kasirye Ashraf Saifullah's story is one story that is really interesting. We all know he's a journalist and he works with Ghetto Media or Ghetto TV, formerly, that has been hacked by Museveni for 4 times now. So funny that a mere Facebook page, a dictator really fears. They always said that Hitler, one of the things that he used to fear, I think he hated a gentleman known as Charlie Chaplin because he always made fun of him. So the things these people fear are really, really things that are funny. So now you see Museveni fears a Facebook page, a mere Facebook page. So he hacked it 3 times. And that Facebook page, that is where this gentleman, comrade Kasirye Ashraf, was broadcasting from. For those of you who know the way he broadcasted, he's one of the people who has endured. He always sits on the roof of the president's car, holding a camera, holding a phone with a helmet, with a lot of gear on him. And then he's always 24/7 wherever the president is. The president is always here at the front and Ashraf is just here at the back. So just imagine that situation where someone has to, to cover presidential campaigns for over 60 days. I don't know how many miles he has traveled. It's a very, very, very demanding job. You see, this person is really committed as a journalist. His journalistic instincts really kicked in. You might think like he's one of those journalists that go to Afghanistan and Syria and Yemen and endure those conditions. That is how resilient and how tough this small man, most of you might look at him as a small gentleman, Kasirye Ashraf, is. We all know how he was shot. We all felt sad. We thought we had lost him. But God gave him a second chance. And we all saw how the president actually broke down, seeing one of his trusted media people being taken down in one way or the other. Now, a few things about Kasirye Ashraf. When I was asking about this gentleman, this young man, I think he's around 26 or 27 years. And most of the people told me things that were fascinating. There is a government newspaper known as the New Vision or Vision Group. Ashraf got a job in the New Vision. But when he got a job, they realized that he was interested in covering Bobby Wine. He had interest in that. So a government newspaper that is paid by the taxpayers, when they realized this, they told Ashraf, well, we do not want you to cover Bobby Wine, or we don't want you to cover People Power. So if you don't want, leave and go. He said, well, even if you're giving me anything else, but if I'm not going to cover Bobby Wine, then I will go. Just like that, he left. In a very tough situation, where there are no jobs, where it's hard to get ends meet, this gentleman turned down a high-paying job at the New Vision because they didn't want him to cover Bobby Wine or NUP. Well, you must have thought that, maybe that was the end of Kasirye Ashraf. At the Red Pepper, another propaganda wing from Museveni and his cronies, he got a job there to report and, do all sorts of journalistic work. Kasirye Ashraf asked them, will I be able to report NUP, People Power, and Bobby Wine? They said no. Then he said, I'm out of here. He left that job. Well, we must have said, okay, Ashraf, that's all. No! He received another job. He got another job at the Uganda Radio Network, one of the media organizations in Uganda that supplies news to other news agencies like the Monitor, New Vision, and so on and so forth. These people gave him a very juicy post, and they gave him things that were really attractive. But there was a catch. There was a catch. And the catch was, Ashraf, you are not supposed to cover Bobby Wine. You are not supposed to cover NUP. You are not supposed to cover People Power. But it's like, that is what I'm good at. Why wouldn't you let me do what I am good at? They were open to him and they told him, Ashraf, we understand. You're good at covering such kind. But we would like you to cover something else. They didn't want him to cover something else because they thought that maybe they were understaffed in that department. No, they wanted him to cover something else in order to take him away from what he was best at doing, and from then taking him away from covering a person he's very passionate about, Bobby Wine, as well as NUP and People Power. Ashraf left URIN. It is also said that he went at CBS, Central Broadcasting Service, way back. And when he received a job there, he always took their stories about NUP and People Power that they told him to stop. And when they told him to stop, he left the place. Before he went full-time with Ghetto Media, he was working with Radio 1 as a reporter. But still, he was taking too much of stories about NUP and People Power, to the extent that these people were no longer paying much interest in him. What I know about is, I think he still works at Radio 1, but not as much as he's working with Ghetto Media. So Ashraf just gave up with these other people who were telling him what to do. That Museveni kind of mentality that I will tell you what to do. This is what you do. You're not supposed to do this. This is what you're supposed to do. Ashraf refused all that. 26 years old. What excuse do you have when you're 40 years old? What excuse do you have when you're 60 years old? And you leave the struggle. And you leave the fight for your children. And you leave the fight for your family and your future. Just because Museveni has given you a job. Just because Museveni has given you money. Just because Museveni has given you airtime. In Uganda, people leave the fight. That is if they are even in the fight. But some of the people you see that Museveni parades with t-shirts, these are not people who have been in the struggle. These are things we also do. I know these things, how they work. Because I used to do them. Most of my alumni at Makerere, they know me. I used to go at my faculty because I was a faculty speaker. I used to go at my faculty, get a couple of lads, and I tell them, you know what? The NRM is here. Do you want to make some cash? They'll be like, yeah. So like, what do you do, guys? We go there, we tell them that we are crossing from a different political party and we are joining the NRM. And we tell them each and every one of you per head is going to be given 150. So you all have to give me a commission of 50K. I used to do those things. We used to do those things. People who were at Makerere University, they know this. They're hobbies of mine that I went to school with. So we go, and I remember it was, I think, 2010. So I got some of my pals, I think they were around 20. I was very broke by then. So I took them at Freedom Square. When Museveni came, it is me who unveiled, but I was in the background, I was not always in the foreground. You see, Museveni's trick is, he always wants to take pictures with people. So that he says that, oh, I've exposed you, I took a picture with you. You're going to get a backlash. So I took the group of my buddies, we go to Freedom Square, and then they announced, yes, we have crossed from DP, FDC, we have now joined the NRM. And they paid each 150K. It's me who handled the money. So after handling the money, I got 100K to each one. Sorry, I got 50K, 50 shilling. The 50K is 50,000 shillings. So in dollars, for those of you who are not Ugandans, I think in dollars it can be around $16 or 15. In pounds it could be around 12 pounds. So I gave each and every one, and I was like, okay, now it's time to give me my commission. You know, everyone took around 150K. That's around 15 or around 30 pounds. And then I was like, okay, you give me my commission of 50K. That is 10 pounds each. So I made quite a good amount of money. So I know how these things work. So when voting day reached, we just went to the ballot and started voting for Besigye all the way through. That is where it ended. Because we know how the transaction is supposed to work. That will be a story for tomorrow. On how these crossings work. I'll tell you how they work. Going back to Ashraf. He refused all these temptations. He refused all these things. Knowing that he was not going to receive a single penny from covering Bobi Wine. Knowing that he was not going to receive even just a bottle of water, even where to sleep, from just holding a phone and a small mic and a power bank for over 30 days, traveling miles and miles and miles. What excuse do you have for crossing? Look at Ashraf. Ashraf is the example. He turned down jobs. He turned down money for the love of his nation. On November 13th, when they were in Luka this year, during the campaign, Ashraf was pepper sprayed. Like the gentleman pepper sprayed this guy, and completed the entire tin. Like the entire tin was emptied. And they pulled him out of the vehicle because this was just a journalist. He had his credentials. Pulled him out of the vehicle. But Ashraf, 2 days later, he was back on the trail. A few days later, on the 27th of December, just last week, on Sunday, while Ashraf was covering the events after Bobi Wine had just started a church service, these guys said there's nothing we can do to stop this guy. So they opted to take him out. Luckily, he had an helmet on his head that it might have played a part in saving him. But of course, it is God that ultimately saved him. So he got that big... man, the pictures are really, really, really graphic, like you guys see. But that is the price of freedom. Ashraf turned down everything. If it was Ashraf, trust me. If it was anyone else, the point Ashraf was pepper sprayed, the point Ashraf lost, like, for some of us cannot even endure losing a single job like this just because you have a belief, just because you have a standard, just because you have your own principles. We have broken so many principles just because of jobs. But for Ashraf, that couldn't break him. He turned down almost 5 jobs. He was pepper sprayed. But he still went out there to cover Kyagulanyi until he was shot in the head. That is what it takes. That is what it takes. So for people like us, when we look at people like Ashraf and see their endurance and see the things they go through, then I sit back and ask myself, like, if such young people can really, really persevere in such circumstances, we really have no excuse at all. We have no excuse to say that, hey, look here, these guys, they will stop me from going back to Uganda. Then hold on going back to Uganda. Look at Ashraf. Done 6 jobs he was fired. Pepper sprayed and almost killed. Oh, and you hear someone, okay, for me, I'm trying to fight, but still Museveni will try to take away my properties. And okay, dog, you don't have to expose your properties all over the internet, that this is my property, this is my property, if you don't want him to go after your properties. You have to be discreet in some way, in one way or the other. So the story of Ashraf is very interesting. So Ashraf found a home. Amidst all these jobs, of course, they formed. He was one of the pioneers, people who were the pioneers who worked with Ghetto Media way back in 2016 after the by-election. He's one of the people who really were some of the people who were the first people to work with Ghetto Media. And Ghetto Media gave them a home where they could exhibit their journalism at its fullest, where they could do something they love, something with passion, one where they felt that they were giving back to their country. There is nothing that is what you would call a dream job. Giving back to your country, giving back to the principles that you believe in, giving back to freedom, to democracy, and the rule of law as a journalist. Ashraf is a very soft-spoken person, a great reader, and a very passionate journalist. When I was asking some of his friends about him, they told me that he likes to read. He's always reading books. He will quote as many people as possible. Whenever he's speaking and talking, he always quotes people. But Museveni wanted to end that gentleman's life. That's a person who has never picked a gun to try and shoot Museveni's children or his grandchildren. That's a person who has never even picked a stick, who has never even thrown an insult to Museveni, that Ashraf guy. But they wanted to take him out. So the story of Ashraf, we should all look and ponder onto it and understand where we are today. And how committed are we in this struggle. Some have died for the struggle. Rita Nabu Kenya, Dani Cheyune, Yasini Kawuma, Ziggy Wine, and so many other people, Serun Kuma. Some have been kidnapped, we haven't seen them again, being forced to renounce. They are being told, renounce, stop supporting Bobby Wine. And the guys are like, what are you even talking about? They have been forced, but they have refused. So Ashraf and our brother Frank, who have put their lives on the line and dying for this struggle, we shall make sure that your blood has not gone just for nothing. We are trying to make sure that your sacrifice counts. And the only way it can count is if we persevere, is if we endure, just like these people have endured all these challenges, and making sure that we fight on to the goal that these people were looking for. Wherever they are, they will be happy if at all we achieve that goal. Thank you very much for listening to me. Keep praying for Ashraf, pray for his family, and pray for Bobby Wine, Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. January 14th, do not forget to go and vote. That is the only way we can pay these people back. Bye-bye.